who proved to be the Federation's most dangerous opponent throughout their voyages. This is the top 10 hostile species in Star Trek. Welcome to BingeBot, and let's get to it. However, before we get started, some ground rules need to be established. First of all, by hostile, we mean primarily hostile towards Starfleet, but also hostile in general. Also, godlike beings do not count, and only the main timeline and universe of the TV series, with the exception of the animated series and Discovery, are taken into account. The 10th place in this list belongs to the Tholians, a highly territorial race. The ruling body of the Tholians is called the Tholian Assembly, which rules dozens of planets in the Alpha Quadrant. Their xenophobic behavior has led them to engage in battle with the USS Enterprise simply because the Enterprise was unable to rescue Captain Kirk in the time given to them by the Tholians. By employing their space web, they hoped to trap Starfleet's flagship, but the Enterprise got away. They continued hostilities towards the Federation and even destroyed a starbase. This put Starfleet on high alert, to a point where they devised combat simulations with the Tholians as enemies.
12 years ago, Kyle Riker was a civilian strategist, advising Starfleet in its conflict with the Tholians. The starbase that he was operating from was attacked. None of the base crews expected to live, and they all died.
Taking up the 9th place is the Keson, a nomadic species consisting of almost 24 different sects. They were a former slave race, used by their oppressors to trade as a labor force. Under the rebel leader Jal Sankur, all Keson sects banded together and managed to overthrow their captors. However, due to scarcity of supplies, materials and ships, and the inability to build ships themselves, the Keson sects have resorted to infighting. But they also attack other species and ships to steal technology and enhance their vessels. They continue to harass Voyager during her time in the Keson parts of the Delta Quadrant in the hope to capture her and loot her of her goodies. We don't know whether to feel sorry for them or shoot them on sight.
I never thought I would see you like this.
It was not my fault. It was his technology.
Don't make excuses, Gar. An Ogla has no room for excuses.
Number 8 on this list is the Suliban Cabal, working for the mysterious humanoid figure. The Cabal was a group within the Suliban race that operated as foot soldiers for an unknown faction in the temporal Cold War. Paid in genetic modifications from the future, this group was highly skilled and proved to be one of the major factions in the temporal war. Through stealth missions and covert operations, the Suliban Cabal tried to instigate a civil war within the Klingon Empire, trying to cripple a major power in the region and destabilize the entire Alpha Quadrant.
We should destroy Enterprise. Have the surgeons prepare. Then bring me the Vulcan.
Ranking 7th on this list are the Breen, an Alpha Quadrant race that primarily kept to themselves, so there wasn't much to be known about them before 2375, except that they were a very hostile and warlike people whom had in the past presumably destroyed an entire Klingon fleet. In late 2375, the Federation, Klingons and Romulans found out the true combat potential of this Alpha Quadrant power when they formed an alliance with the Dominion and attacked Starfleet headquarters on Earth. But their real added value was demonstrated during the Second Battle of Chintoka, where the Breen used an energy dampening weapon that was capable of leaving enemy ships powerless. Due to this Breen weapon, 311 out of 312 Allied ships were destroyed, and the Second Battle of Chintoka ended as an overwhelming victory for the Dominion and the Breen forces.
Welcome to our command center. Of course, go right ahead.
Absolutely not. That database is classified.
What Legate Dema means to say is that our entire database is open to you. Feel free to examine it at your leisure.
Coming in at number 6 in this list are the Cardassians, a brutal and military race from the Alpha Quadrant. The Cardassians committed unspeakable actions upon the Bajoran people during the occupation of Bajor, with the lucky Bajorans being forced to work in the mines or used as slaves for their Cardassian masters. 50 years later, when the Cardassians were pressured into leaving Bajor, the Bajorans found their planet stripped of most natural resources and were left with 50 million of their people dead. However, the Cardassian aggression didn't stop there. With the fall of the Obsidian Order and the constant attacks from the Maquis and the Klingons, Gul Dukat tried to restore Cardassia to its former glory by joining the Dominion. With their new allies, the Cardassians slowly regained their former status at the start of the Dominion War by vanquishing the Maquis and the invading Klingons.
We had no choice. We were fighting for survival.
So were we. We had an empire to protect. We needed your resources. Everything I did was for the greater glory of Cardassia. And if you spineless scum had to be ground under, so much the better. All that mattered was Cardassia. I loved my homeland. That's what justified my actions. That's what gave me strength.
Nothing justifies genocide.
What you call genocide, I call a day's work.
Number 5 on this list is a group of species called the Xindi. They formerly consisted of 6 different species. Due to internal fighting, the avian species became extinct. The group now consists of the primates, arboreals, reptilians, insectoids and aquatics. In the middle of the 22nd century, the Sphere Builders, a trans-dimensional species that the Xindi looked to as gods, and also a faction in the temporal Cold War, told them that Earth would be responsible for destroying the Xindi home planet. Unbeknownst to the Xindi, the Sphere Builders wanted to use them to wipe out one of the founding members of the Federation, and thus with it also to prevent the founding of the Federation, in order to pave the way for their invasion. Guided by their guardians, the Xindi built a weapon of mass destruction that would eventually kill 7 million humans on Earth.
Once Earth is destroyed, the reptilians will take their rightful place at the head of a new Xindi empire.
The 4th place in this list is taken by the Klingons, one of the toughest warrior races the Federation has ever encountered. War between the Klingons and other species was not uncommon. The Klingon Empire was almost always warring or looking for it. 2 times the Klingons engaged the Federation in war, but both were relatively small skirmishes. Most of the time there was a state of Cold War between the Federation and the Klingon Empire, where both parties did not attack each other but were very wary of one another. However, this was not the case with the Klingon-Cardassian War of 2372. During that war, the Klingons blasted through Cardassian space and defeated the defenses there, leaving the Cardassian Union in a state of total despair.
Kirk, my ship is disabled. I claim yours. You are now prisoners of the Klingon Empire against which you have committed a wanton act of war.
Taking up the 3rd spot in this list are the Romulans. As one of the most distrustful and xenophobic races of the Alpha Quadrant, the Romulans were bent on stopping United Earth to bring peace and order into the quadrant. This eventually led to a war between the founders of the Federation and the Romulans. A century later, the Romulans again demonstrated their hostile attitude by violating the neutral zone in order to ignite a war that would disrupt the peace. Such hostilities with the Federation would continue, even in the 24th century. However, despite their constant fighting with the Federation, the Romulans regarded the Klingon as their arch-enemies. Battle and skirmishes with the Klingons were plenty, with one of the most memorable attack being the Khitomer Massacre, wherein the Romulans slaughtered 4,000 Klingon colonists.
Your presence is not wanted. Do you understand my meaning, Captain? We are back.
Ranking 2nd on this list is the Dominion. This Gamma Quadrant group of species was founded by the changelings called the Founders. Before they came into contact with the Alpha Quadrant species, the Dominion had already conquered hundreds of species and planets in the Gamma Quadrant and had built a vast empire with militaristic tendencies. Before the Dominion War would begin, the Federation and the Dominion became locked into a state of Cold War, in which the Dominion tried to destabilize the Alpha Quadrant and gain a foothold there by infiltrating the highest level of some of the major Alpha Quadrant powers, with one of the most successful operations leading to the Battle of the Umarian Nebula, where the Dominion had lured the Tal Shiar and the Obsidian Order to be utterly destroyed by Jem'Hadar fighters, and the war had yet to start, which it did in 2373. At the start of the war, the Dominion achieved continuous triumphs, with one of the biggest being the near destruction of the 7th Federation Alliance fleet, where they managed to destroy 98 out of 112 ships at the Battle of the Tyra system. Over the course of the war, the Dominion continued to cripple the Federation Alliance and even took over Deep Space Nine. Later in the war, Dissatisfaction between the Cardassians and the Dominion led to the Cardassian Rebellion, in which the Dominion massacred 800 million Cardassian civilians. Even though the Dominion isn't first on this list, one thing is certain: they proved to be the Federation's toughest opponent so far. If it wasn't for the Romulans joining the Alliance, the Alpha Quadrant might have fallen to the shape-shifting emperors of the Dominion.
He does not have to earn my loyalty, Captain. He has had it from the moment I was conceived. I am a Jem'Hadar. He is a Vorta. It is the order of things.
The honorable mentions. The Not Cool. This temporal Cold War faction proved to be highly dangerous, since they were the ones responsible for letting the temporal Cold War fall into a state of total war. The Hirogen, a hunter race who lived to hunt all kinds of prey. They once even hunted a member of species 8472 and also took over USS Voyager to use its holodeck technology and crew in a simulation. The Vidians, once a peaceful species, but due to their species suffering from the phage, an affliction that attacked their organs, they were forced to become hostile organ thieves throughout the Delta Quadrant. Coming in on the first place is of course the Borg. We all love perfection, right? Well, so did the Borg, but they took the concept of perfection a notch or two too far. This Delta Quadrant species was first encountered by the Federation during a challenge accepted moment between Q and Jean-Luc Picard. However, the Enterprise was no match for the Borg cube, and Q was forced to intervene. Throughout the Delta Quadrant, the Borg was known as a force not to be trifled with, and had assimilated thousands of species, accumulating to a population of trillions. They also had superior technology and transportation speed when compared to most other species, giving them a serious advantage over them and the capability to travel anywhere in the galaxy within a relative short time. In their first serious battle with the Borg at Wolf 359, the Federation got their behinds handed to them by just a single Borg vessel under the command of an assimilated Captain Jean-Luc Picard, named Locutus of Borg. During that battle, the Federation lost 39 out of 40 ships, and 11,000 souls were lost that day. Never was the Federation so outmatched as it was during the Battle of Wolf 359, not even during the Dominion War. Despite their advanced technology, the most frightening aspect of the Borg is that they can't be bargained with. Unless they're being wiped out by a species from fluidic space, there is just no room for diplomacy with these guys, and resistance is simply futile.
I have nothing to say to you, and I will resist you with my last ounce of strength.
Strength is irrelevant. Resistance is futile. We wish to improve ourselves. We will add your biological and technological distinctiveness to our own. Your culture will adapt to service ours.
Impossible. My culture is based on freedom and self-determination.
Freedom is irrelevant. Self-determination is irrelevant. You must comply.
We would rather die.
Death is irrelevant.
What do you think of our list? Let us know in the comments. If you enjoyed watching this video, subscribe to the channel for more. That was it for now. Thanks for watching and see you all next time.